week 6 is in the books, which means today we are going to be setting our waivers for week 7. And in this video, I've got 2 players at each position that you can grab off waivers to help you in week 7 and beyond. There are a surprising amount of rookies on this list, and there's one team whose offense we didn't think was going to be relevant all year, but now, due to a quarterback change, there's a chance it could be quite explosive. Let's get into it. So, straight into it with the quarterback that I was hinting at. He is a rookie, and he is the leader of that offense that we didn't think was going to be great. Drake Maye took over as the starting quarterback of the New England Patriots in week 6, and whilst they did ultimately lose to the Houston Texans, Maye showed all of those abilities that saw him drafted at 3rd overall in the NFL draft just gone. Now, the really exciting thing about Drake Maye is that this was his debut, and he finished as the QB8 on the week, throwing 3 touchdown passes and ultimately committing 3 turnovers. But he showcased some great rushing ability and great ability to work out of structure. Maye is super exciting for fantasy, and he plays the Jags next week, who just allowed Caleb Williams to throw for 4 passing touchdowns. Now, Caleb is a fantastic quarterback, but so's Drake Maye. That's why they were in conversation for the 101 in the draft just gone. Drake Maye is available in like 85% of leagues on Sleeper. If you are in a super flex league, this is my starting waiver claim of the week. This is the first one that I'm going to go for. I think Drake Maye can go straight into your lineup against the Jags. They do play against the Jets in week 8, which is obviously less of a great matchup for opposing quarterbacks, but against the Jags, I think there's a really good chance he can finish as a top 5 quarterback, and I think that rushing floor, that rushing baseline is only going to get better as he feels more at home with the offense. And what we've seen already is that Drake Maye is able to elevate the weapons around him in a way that Jacoby Brissett just wasn't, and that's going to be something that's going to feature quite heavily throughout this video. Next up is another rookie quarterback, and one who is not quite as exciting, but Bo Nix has finished as a top 10 quarterback in his last 2 games. And next up, he plays the Saints, who obviously just allowed Baker Mayfield to have an outrageous fantasy week, and then the Panthers, who we can start absolutely everyone against. Now, Bo Nix is a little more rostered on Sleeper because he was been starting already at 20%, but I still think he's a priority add. I'm not hugely into Bo Nix as a player. I think he's been fine, but I think given the amount of experience he had in college, he should be showing a lot more intelligence in his game. But he is getting it done so far. He finished as the QB9 this week. He finished as the QB8 last week. Even though he was playing from behind a significant amount of this week, Bo Nix is actually still being incredibly fantasy relevant. It doesn't feel great, but with bye weeks coming up and some quite juicy matchups ahead of him, Bo Nix is someone that you should be targeting as a priority, especially in Superflex leagues. While you're here, if you're enjoying, please consider liking and subscribing. It makes a huge difference to the growth of the channel. We are so nearly at 200 subscribers, and it is a long old season, and there is so much great content to come for you the rest of the way. But let's move on to the running backs. It's another rookie is our first running back, and this would be my priority waiver claim across the entire slate. We just saw Jordan Mason go down. Now, we don't have any information as of yet on how long he's going to be out for, but we do know that Christian McCaffrey isn't available back just yet. And Isaac Guerendo looked absolutely explosive in the win against the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. Now, when teams play on Thursday, we can often forget about them when the waiver run happens on Tuesday next week. But Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville absolutely smashed the combine. He was a player that wasn't on a lot of people's radars, and I've seen a lot of people talking about him now on articles or videos this week after he's sort of broken out, if that's what we want to call it, saying, where did this guy come from? And, we hadn't really heard about him until the combine. Guerendo was one of my guys coming into the draft, and it feels really great now to have had my 2 running back sleepers as Isaac Guerendo and Tyrone Tracy, now that they both look very fantasy relevant. But we've seen before that any starting running back in the Kyle Shanahan 49ers system is fantasy gold. You know, we hadn't even really heard of Jordan Mason until Christian McCaffrey got injured. We thought it would probably be Elijah Mitchell, then he was injured as well. So Jordan Mason out of nowhere becomes an absolute stud. And I think this is going to be the same with Guerendo. Guerendo absolutely smashed this week and could have smashed even more if he hadn't had the intelligence to slide to end the game rather than going in completely open for a touchdown. And he is not rostered in very many leagues. He should be very easy to go and get. I would be quite happy putting in a waiver claim of 8 to 10% of your fab budget, potentially even pushing a little more up to 15 if you're running back needy or if you were the Jordan Mason owner. But with bye weeks coming up, I am all in on Guerendo for as long as Mason and CMC are out. This is the fourth player that I've spoken about, and it's the fourth rookie. Kimani Vidal was a sixth-round running back drafted by the Chargers that a lot of people were really excited about. Not just because he has a pretty complete skill set, one of those players who's good at everything and probably great at nothing, but it was the depth chart that people were looking at and the run-heavy scheme. Now, we've seen, obviously, that Gus Edwards is on IR and also old, slow, and bad. J.K. Dobbins has looked pretty explosive, but we know that he's only ever one injury away. And in Kimani Vidal's first touch last week, he scored a touchdown off a wheel route for over 40 yards, which was incredible to see. Now, he didn't have a huge amount of share in the offense for the rest of the game, so it obviously wouldn't have been so great if it hadn't been for that touchdown. But to me, it's more the fact that he is now the clear RB2 with Gus Edwards out, and J.K. Dobbins, we know, isn't great from an injury history perspective. And they play the Cardinals next week, who you can run on, you can pass on, you can do anything you want to their defense. So Kimani Vidal, for me, is a clear priority as a waiver pickup. I do want to touch on, before I move on, why this isn't Sean Tucker. And basically, I don't think Rachaad White is going to completely go away. Sean Tucker looked incredible in this offense, and I think him and Bucky Irving are a perfect thunder and lightning combination in a way that it's thunder, lightning, and then Rachaad White is like a gentle drizzle. But I don't think Rachaad White is going to go anywhere, and the offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, basically said as much, that, you know, you can expect this to be a three-headed monster down the stretch. So to me, even though Sean Tucker was the RB1 on the slate, it doesn't make me see him as a priority waiver ad, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's his only RB1 game or finish as a top 12 running back. I think probably Rachaad White comes back next week, and we don't want to start any of them. We're sort of reliant on big plays. So that's why it's not Sean Tucker, who I think you might have been expecting, but Kimani Vidal, for me, as the clear RB2 behind J.K. Dobbins, is a priority must-add waiver claim. Back to the Patriots, and it is this week's wide receiver 9, finishing with 9 targets, 6 receptions, 92 receiving yards, and a touchdown, Demario Douglas. He completely outpaced the rest of the wide receivers in terms of target share, and he's someone that I'm really excited about if it seems like he's going to be Drake May's favourite weapon, which, judging from the Texas game, that seems to be the case. He features heavily out of the slot. He performed really well as a rookie, considering he went in the 6th round, and no one really knew what to think of Pop Douglas. But with a much better quarterback at the helm, I am really excited about what Pop Douglas can do going forward for your team. He is very low rostered, about 5% on Sleeper. And as I said earlier, when it came to Drake May, they play the Jags this week. And I think there's a real chance that Pop Douglas can finish as a top 24 wide receiver. I think volume alone is going to be incredible for him. We weren't so sure about how the wide receiver core was going to shake out in New England. People thinking potentially Jalen Polk could be the guy, or Javon Baker, Juju Smith-Schuster, who's obviously now on the Chiefs, even potentially Kendrick Bourne. But it seems like Demario Douglas is Drake May's favourite target, especially while he learns the ropes of the offense, and Pop Douglas can win early and often out of the slot. So he, for me, would be someone I'd definitely be targeting as a bye week fill-in, and I think you can plug in and play him as a flex straight away. I promise this is the last rookie that I'm going to be talking about, but it is someone we've spoken about on the channel before, Xavier Legette. He is the clear wide receiver 2 on the Panthers. He has finished really strongly in the last few weeks. He is an explosive and dynamic athlete, even if some of the route running isn't quite there yet. He is much higher rostered on Sleeper than some of the other targets that I've spoken about, but he is available in a lot of weeks and can be very helpful as a bye week fill-in, as sort of a size, speed, strength athlete. He can explode for long touchdowns, which means he can really help as a bye week fill-in. And more importantly, his next two opponents, he's playing the Washington Commanders, who we know are potentially the worst defense against the pass in the NFL, and the Denver Broncos, which would be much more worrying if they had Pat Surtain, but he just got injured and is probably going to miss that game. So for me, Xavier Legette is a really strong target this week. We're done with rookies. We are on to tight ends, and my first tight end waiver claim would be Noah Fant. He was a tight end 7 on the week in week 6, finishing with 6 targets, 6 receptions, and 63 yards. That is a lot of sixes. Now, Noah Fant is going to be an inconsistent option just because there are a lot of targets in this passing game, but when they drop back and throw the ball 51 times, as they did against the 49ers, he's going to see volume because he does offer something slightly different to a lot of the options in that offense with his size and speed. Obviously, DK Metcalf quite similar, but Noah Fant is a fantastic athlete as well. He is going to be quite volatile, but at just 20% rostered, if you are struggling to find a streaming tight end, you can go and pick him up. They play the Falcons next week, who are quite susceptible at the tight end position, and the Bills afterwards, who are a pass funnel defense. So you can absolutely find ways to get Noah Fant into your starting lineup. It is going to be very up and down, but when it's up, he is definitely worth a waiver claim. And my final waiver claim for week 7, we are going back to that Patriots offense. As I hinted at the start, Hunter Henry was this week's tight end 8. We know he is a fantastic red zone threat and probably offers size in a way that none of the other receivers in New England do, as he showcased by catching a touchdown in the red zone against the Texans last week. He is quite heavily rostered on Sleeper, and not really someone that I'd be looking to put in a huge amount of fab on, but definitely if he's available and if you're struggling at the tight end position, because we're all struggling at the tight end position, I feel like I say that every video, Hunter Henry is a great bet to score a touchdown any given week, especially, as I've said already, and sorry to keep hitting on the Jags, as everyone is just hitting on the Jags at the minute. They're playing the Jaguars this week, and they're bad against everything, and just generally quite a bad team on offense and defense. But Hunter Henry then has a good chance to have, he has a lot of touchdown upside for week 7 and beyond with a better quarterback at the helm. So those are my 8 priority waiver claims going into week 7. I'm going to be back later in the week to hit you up with some under the rated starts, which is a series that you guys have been really enjoying. Let me know in the comments down below if you are interested in picking up any of these players. Let me know any questions on start sits when we start to get later in the week. I'm always happy to help out. Have a great time in week 7. Have great success with all of your waiver claims, and I will see you next time.